Rudy. Before I got up here, both Rudy and Andy reminded me I only had 10 minutes. And I said, I realized that I timed myself last night on this, but now I've already used about 10, 15 seconds on 10 minutes. So good morning. I'm glad everybody's here with us this morning. This is not my first time speaking at the fair. It's actually my third time speaking at the fair. My first time was in 2015 when I ran for county prosecutor for Neshoba County. And I was looking back at my notes from that speech, and I saw that I had pointed out some adventures that I'd had on the campaign trail back there in 2015. Pointed out that my dad and I had rode around Neshoba County, and I just remember those times fondly. He would talk about the farms and the people on those farms and kind of how he had helped them as veterinarians. So that was a good time. Last year, I got to do a whole lot more riding around. 4 counties worth of riding around, not just one. And I had a lot more adventures in the 4 counties and with a lot more people, not just my dad. And I almost made it through the whole campaign last year without getting dog bit. But right there 2 weeks before the election, I was out in the house, and I got through speaking to these people at their home. And I went to turn around, I felt something pinch on my leg. And that pinch turned into what felt like a jagged vice just clamping down on the back of my leg. And I'm thankful to say that I didn't say anything that lost me any votes that day. But I know not to let my guard down out there in the house. Some years ago when I was a law clerk, I would come out here and I'd listen to Judge Gordon and Judge Cotton do their fair speeches. I remember one thing Judge Gordon would talk about was the number of trials that we would have here in the 8th Circuit District. And that was one thing he was really proud of. He would say that, and Stephen pointed this out as well, that there are other circuits that don't have as many trials as we do. And I know Judge Gordon was proud of that, not because of numbers, but because he wanted to get the work of the court done. And I realized that coming into this office, that there was work that had to be done, and there was going to be a lot that had to be done. And as I said, as Stephen has pointed out, we had this backlog of cases, but I'm proud to say that we have gotten our numbers on our dockets back to the routine numbers, back to those manageable numbers of cases that we have. He did point out some of our numbers. He said I did 13 trials. I had 12, but I'm glad he gave me credit for that 13th one. I think that wound up in a plea anyway. But I took almost 100 guilty pleas all across our 4 counties. So that put a lot of what these manageable numbers back into place that they needed to be. Now, our last trial in Scott County last month was a murder trial. And the attorney on that case was from Texas, and that trial was to start on a Thursday. And that attorney made a motion to continue that case. And I said, I'm going to deny your motion for continuance. See, he didn't think that there was any way that we could complete a murder trial in 2 days. Well, after that first day, by the end of it, he understood why I was confident. You see, in our district, we have a tradition with our local attorneys. They know what to expect out of our circuit court. They know to follow the law and the procedure so that we can get our work done. And any lawyers that come in that are out of district, they come out of our court impressed with the speed and efficiency with which we can carry on justice in our court. You know, it's not just speed and efficiency that we're concerned about. As circuit court judges, fairness under the laws of the state of Mississippi and under the United States is what we have to ensure, what I as a judge have to ensure. And this takes a practical knowledge and common sense to ensure that these fundamental rights are followed in each and every case. Now, I do this by taking extra care and instructing our jurors on the law and the procedure. And I make sure that these lawyers don't toe the line when applying that law and procedure. Ensuring fairness to all of those who enter our courts is the #1 priority, because that's the foundation of our society and our government. And it makes living in Mississippi and living in the United States the best. And I'm proud to be working as your circuit court judge to ensure that fairness. They made me think, what are some of the specifics that I brought in as circuit court judge? Well, first person I want to point out is Brianna Tullis. And she's here. Of course, she's my court administrator. And before that, she was with me for 8 years in my law practice. So she knows in particular what my expectations for are in court. And she also knows how to implement and carry out my plan. Second thing I want to point out is spreadsheets. Excel. That's something that we have implemented, and I know I can see everybody, the smile on their faces, because y'all know what I'm talking about. We use these for dockets, we use these for lists of cases, we use these to carry out everything in our office. They put them in columns and rows and make it so organized so everybody can see, and I can see everybody really happy for me to be talking about spreadsheets at 9 o'clock in the morning. But this is something that I brought in that we're real proud of. The second thing I brought in is to bring in a higher level of communication. So whether it's through landline, fax, cell phone, text message, email, FaceTime, we use all these methods of communication because we know that those parties that are in our court need to know what's going on in our court. We need to be available to them. So we have achieved a high level of communication with all those parties involved in our court. So I was going over this speech last week with my mom, and I brought up spreadsheets, and I brought up communications, and she said, Caleb, well, nobody want to hear about spreadsheets or communication at 9 o'clock at the fairgrounds. I said, Mom, that's something I'm really proud of that we've done. She said, I know you're proud of it, Caleb. So, you may be asking, what can I do to help out the court? Well, I encourage each of you to serve on jury duty if you're called. If there's somebody else that's been called to jury duty, encourage them to serve as well. Ensuring this fairness that I talked about, it requires as many jurors as we can get. Having as many jurors in this efficient system of justice is, like I said, one of those foundations of our government, our society, that makes this one of the best places to live. But it's been a great first half year in office. It's hard to believe how far we've come in a year and where we were a year ago. So a year ago, I was on this stage giving a political speech. What would have been the first Saturday of the 2020 fair, Natalie and I came out here. And I filmed a video right here on this stage, and I put it on my campaign page on Facebook. Now, there were a lot of leaves here, years worth of leaves. There was no podium, and nobody listened to me but Natalie. And this place was kind of like a ghost town. What should have been filled with friends and family and fun, it was just empty. But like I said, what a difference a year makes. Here we all are together, enjoying this fair, and I'm particularly enjoying it to be here speaking to you as your circuit court judge. So I appreciate your time this morning, and y'all have fun the rest of the day.